Good morning. It's 9 a.m. Monday, April 24, 2023. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First is to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Motion by Jeff, second by
I'll
Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next is review of executive annual Wellmark report and health/dental plan renewal information with Wellmark Executive Account Representative Devon Hartford. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Holy smokes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I brought some information with me to go through what's driving your costs, what the costs are, and why there's an increase. And I have an analysis, I have the annual report, the rate pages, and then also some claims summaries. If you turn over behind the agenda, this is a renewal worksheet that is a comparison from current to the prior year. If you look at the right-hand side, this is for the current period. So this is what underwriting is looking at to rate you for the next renewal period. You can see that your health claims have increased over 57%. Drug claims increased over 48%. And then overall, when you add those all together, it's almost 55% increase from the prior period.
Devon, do we know, are those spread out across many different claims, or are those a few isolated ones?
You do have one very high claimant, and then a couple others. So,
A little bit of both.
yeah, so a bit of both, yep.
Thank you.
So your large claims over stop loss in this current period is 1.1 million compared to 293,000 in the prior year. When you remove those, then you still have a 20% increase from the prior period. Then we have a completion to where we think you'll complete through the end of this renewal, and it'll be about a 23.6% increase. Then I have a per employee per month cost, and this is used to take the net claims divided by the number of contracts divided by 12, and it gives you the $1,031 compared to $843 in the prior year. Below that are your fixed costs. So your stop loss is that top number, increasing over 20%. Then there's no change to the aggregate stop loss. Your network access fee is increasing. Admin fee is increasing. No change to the drug card fee. So overall increase from the current to from the prior period is $255.23 or 15.2%. Below that then are the final rates. So increase to expected claims is 7.73%. And then increase to estimated suggested rates, and that includes your expected claims and your fixed costs, and that's 8.84%. Then below that, these are claims that have ongoing risk into the next renewal. You have one that's between 200 and 300,000, three between 100 and 200,000, and three between 50 and 100,000. Below that, just some demographic information. You have 52% of employees are under the age of 45. The population is more male at 57%, and then you have 54% family contracts. Then when we look at large claims, the current year you have 66 claimants over $10,000 and 5 claimants over $75,000. In the prior year you had 56 claimants over $10,000 and 2 over $75,000. And for a group of your size, we would expect to see 44 claimants over $10,000 and 4 claimants over $75,000. So you've been running higher this year. As far as dental, there's no changes to the admin fees, and you're in a 2-year rate guarantee, so no changes at all to your expected claims and to admin costs there. And then at the bottom then, Wellmark book trend is running at 8.46%. So if you look at your overall increase of the 8.84%, you're just above our book trend. So you're running just a little bit above that. Next, we'll take a look at the annual report. When we're looking at this is 4 periods that we're reviewing, and also is a comparison to Wellmark's benchmark. And the benchmark is made up of Wellmark city and county groups, about 149,000 members, I'm sorry. If you look at page 3, the plan performance, your current allowed per member per month is $8,535. That's a change from 45% from the prior year. And then you're running higher than the benchmark by 20.7%. If you look at the lower left side, you can see that inpatient claims have increased 31%, mostly driven by cost. Outpatient claims also increased over 87%, and those costs were driven by both cost and utilization. Office increased 15%, and both increased due to cost and utilization. And then your pharmacy increased 34% from the prior period, and the cost is the main driver there. There's one other category there on the right-hand side called Other, and it makes up a smaller portion of overall claims, but it's your skilled nursing, home health care, and air ambulance, and you can see that did increase by 42% from the prior year. On the next page, then we look at the costs split out a little bit more as far as medical and pharmacy. Your medical claims were $2.6 million. Pharmacy claims were $871,000. When you look at the right-hand side of the table there, you can see that the county in the orange bar increased significantly from the prior period, and you're running much higher than the benchmark. Your health and pharmacy claims per member per year increased 50% from the prior year. Health claims increased 55%, and pharmacy claims increased 36%. Your average membership also increased about 3% from the prior year. If you go to the next page, on page 5, we'll look at your enrollment. Your average employees is at 195 for the current period. Average members is 453. Average employee age is 45.2, which is younger than the book of business of 47.3. Average age overall for all members is 33, and the benchmark is 34.4. And then your average family size is 2.3 compared to 2.5 for the book of business. On the right-hand side, you can see that it's split out by state. Iowa and Illinois are the 2 states where the members are located. And then on the lower left-hand side, it does break it out more as far as employee, spouse, dependent, and so on. On the next page, we look at the analysis for membership in more detail. So employees were 43% of the membership, and they accounted for 45% of the allowed charges. Spouses accounted for 21% of the membership and accounted for 25% of the allowed charges. Dependents make up 36% of the membership, and they make up the remaining costs. There in the middle, it breaks out your membership by age band. You can see that age 5 to 18 has your largest population, and your age over 65 has your smallest. On the next page then, we look at network performance. And the network is, did save over 56% in provider savings based on our Wellmark contracts. In-network utilization was 99.3%, which is above the benchmark of 97.7. And you can see on the lower left-hand side, it's been well above the benchmark in all 4 periods. Any questions before I move on? The next page looks at claims paid by range. In the current current period, 69% of your members had no claims or claims less than $2,501. The remaining 31% of the membership accounted for 93% of the claims paid. In the prior period, you had 2 members with claims over $100,000, which accounted for 19% of the claims paid. And in the current period, then there's 4 members with claims over $100,000, which accounted for 40% of the claims paid. On the next page, then it breaks that out in more detail. And just to point out, on the lower left-hand side, the paid by range categories, you can see that you have 1 member between $100,000 and $200,000, 2 members between $200,000 and $500,000, and then 1 member over $500,000 in the current period. On the next page, then this is breaking out what the member has paid and what you as the plan have paid. So the current member cost share was 7.7% compared to 9.6% in the prior period. And the current member cost share is lower than the benchmarks, 12.2%. So your members are paying 7.7% out of pocket for services, while the benchmark is paying 12.2%. On the next page, then we start breaking it out a little bit more. You can see on the upper left-hand side, spouses have been the most costly in all periods, followed by employees. And then on the upper right-hand side, you can see that outpatient services have been the most costly in all periods. And that's typical. There's a lot more services done in the outpatient setting than in the inpatient and in the office. Sometimes, well, not necessarily the office, but they're higher cost than the office services. On the next page, members over the age of 56 are driving most of the costs and have done that in all 4 periods. Then on the next page, we start looking at diagnosis categories. Your number 1 diagnosis categories is injuries, poisonings, and the category is actually injury more than poisonings. That accounts for 25% of the allowed charges and increased significantly from the prior period. The second largest category is bones, muscles, ligaments, and that was 12% of allowed charges, and that increased 5% from the prior period. Bones, muscles, ligaments is Wellmark's highest diagnosis category across all of our book of business. So it's not surprising to see that in the top few, just because it does incorporate so many different age bands. You have your young athletes, you have your middle-aged that go out and play football or do yard work and hurt their backs, and then you have the older population that have the knee and hip replacements. On page 14, then we look at your diagnosis category, allowed charges per member per year by age band. And I did highlight the bones, muscles, ligaments, and the injuries and poisonings. And you can see that there's 3 different age bands for both. On page 15, we start looking at just inpatient costs. Inpatient costs were 18% of the total allowed charge. And inpatient allowed per member per year did increase 31% and was 43% above the benchmark. On the next page, we look at the utilization. The largest category were your injuries, poisonings, accounted for 67% of the allowed charges and 45% of the inpatient admissions. Then your second largest is the obstetrical conditions, which accounted for 12% of the allowed charges and 28% of the inpatient admissions. The next page just breaks out that information out by allowed charge per member per year, admissions per 1,000, and then allowed charges per admission. If you go over to page 18, we look at emergency room services. And when you look at this, you can see ER visits per 1,000 increased 41% and was 90% higher than the benchmark. Allowed per visit increased 63% and was 62% higher than the benchmark. And member liability per ER visit is $219, which is 22% lower than the benchmark of $280. ER increase, visit increase is being driven by your largest claimant. So he had several, that person had several ER visits. The lower right-hand side then breaks out the primary diagnosis categories. On page 19, we look at outpatient services. And outpatient costs were 37% of the total allowed charges. Allowed per member per year increased 88% and was 43% above the benchmark. On the next page, it's then the utilization, injuries, poisonings accounted for 15% of the allowed charges and 5% of the visits. And then bones, muscles, ligaments is your second largest, with 15% of the allowed charges and 7% of the visits. Then again, on the next page, that breaks that information out by allowed charge per member per year, outpatient visits per 1,000, and then allowed per outpatient visits. If you go to page 23, we'll look at our office costs and utilization. So office costs were 17% of the total allowed charges. Office allowed per member per year did increase 15%, but was still 12% below the benchmark. And we have seen office utilization increasing during the pandemic in 2020, 2021. We did see all services basically drop because members did not seek out the care to go into the office or have services done. So we're starting to see claims increase again up to where they probably would have been at some point.
Is there any way of telling if that's just deferred stuff that's now being incurred, or if we have actual greater health problems as a result of that deference?
Based on our book of business, we have seen deferred. A lot of costs have been deferred. And we're seeing that cancers are one of the highest impacted across the board. And we'll probably see cancers become the top diagnosis category at some point because members have put off their care and they shouldn't have. The next page has your office utilization. Your top one is bones, muscles, ligaments. They account for 20% of the allowed charges and 32% of the visits. Your second largest is routine diagnostic services, and they accounted for 13% of allowed charges and 10% of the visits. So your members are getting some of the routine services, getting back into the habit of going to see their doctor for that routine care. What I don't see in here is mental health services. And I can tell you with the pandemic, we've seen an increase of mental health costs and utilization significantly from the prior years due to the pandemic. On page 25, then it breaks out that information, allowed charges per member per year, visits per 1,000, and then allowed charges per visit. Next page looks at the top 10 facilities and providers. Your top 3 facilities are University Community Hospital, University of Iowa Hospitals, and Trinity Muscatine. The top practitioner is CVS Caremark, and that is for specialty medications. So that's what's driving a lot of your costs as far as the provider side. The next few pages, then we look at pharmacy. And just a couple of things on this next page. So your drug costs accounted for 25% of those allowed per member per year compared to the benchmark of 26%. Your allowed per member per year did increase 34% and was 16% above the benchmark. Your top medications were Stelara, Ibrance, and Ozempic, and those 3 combined account for 55% of the claims paid. On the next page, then we look at just a couple of things here. So your generic utilization is good. You're at 85.6%, which is higher than the benchmark of 84.6. And then your members between 56 and 64 are driving most of the costs for your number of prescriptions and allowed charges. On the next page, we break out the top 20 prescriptions that were utilized during this period. And what the condition is typically for those unit, or those medical drugs, or pharmacy drugs. The top three, or the top two, are specialty medications. So, Stellaris for Crohn's disease, colitis, and plaque psoriasis. And that's the number one costing drug. Ibrance is for breast cancer, is your second highest. Then Ozempic is for diabetes, and it is not a specialty drug. And then Xeljanz is the fourth highest, that is a specialty drug used for rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, and colitis.
Well, I've got you. Can I ask you, if you know off the top of your head, to what extent our plans cover the, I don't even have a good word, the little stick-on meters for diabetes? Those monitoring things, I can't remember what they're called.
Those are covered, yes.
Okay.
You go over to the next page, then this breaks out high cost claimants over $50,000 and breaks out by place of service, inpatient, outpatient, office, other, and pharmacy. So those are your top 6 large claimants for this period. Any questions on this information before we move on? And then I did include the final rate pages. Those are after the report, if you go up the page behind the report there. So flip through. So these are the rates for your 3 plans that you have today. So these are final. And these are the rates that are in place for 7/1/2023.
And just as a reminder, because we're self-funded, they suggest rates to us, we decide and set our own rates.
Do those rates start July 1st, the
Yes.
new rates?
Yep.
And then there's 3 pages of the rate pages, and then I did include a high cost claimant summary for claimants greater than 25,000, so that you have a detail on where the costs are coming from for the county. Any questions for me?
What is the health plan coverage code? There's KM.
That's our internal
Okay.
coverage, so it tells us what plan it is.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's a lot here.
There's a lot of information.
I'm gonna quiz you on it next week, so take it home and study.
Let Nancy know if you have any questions.
Yeah,
She has me on the speed dial, I think.
it's gonna take a little.
But one of the things we've talked about over the years, because we've traditionally had a higher than expected high-cost claims and stuff, and I don't know if we've talked about, are there programs that we could implement to, you said our office visits are up and routine are up a bit, so we're doing okay there.
Yep.
But I just wonder if there are wellness programs or education programs that we could
We've talked
implement.
about wellness programs a number of times, but we haven't went anywhere with them, and frankly, part of that's been, having the staff in my office to get them up and running and be
Yeah.
successful, so.
Okay,
Yeah, I did, yeah, okay.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Devon.
Thank you. Next is discussion and possible action to approve 10 upcoming special events permits for Arden Creek Vineyard and Winery LLC as requested by Kim James, General Manager. Article 3, Section 3.26 of the zoning ordinance allows native wineries or cider mills as a special use, subject to specific requirements, including Board of Supervisors approval of any special event at which, number 1, wine will be sold for on-site consumption, and attendance of more than 35 persons is anticipated.
One of these requests comes, they submit at least one request every year for music events and such that they're gonna hold.
I don't see that we've had no significant issues. I'm more, Brian, you haven't had anything with roads? I haven't heard the sheriff hasn't said anything, and they've
Yeah.
done a pretty nice job, so.
Powers doing
I
a
would
nice
move
job.
the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Kurt, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes. Next up is items with county engineer Brian Horowski. Brian, how are you this morning?
Very good. Good morning.
First is discussion and possible action to approve various utility permits.
Yes, so we have one utility permit today. It is from Eastern Iowa Light and Power, REC of Wilton, Iowa. They are requesting to bore underneath 180th Street at house number 2928 for a new grain bin setup.
Okay,
I'll move the approval.
I'll second.
I got a motion by Jeff, second by Danny, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion passes. Any other updates or anything?
Yeah, I want to give a construction update. Our Tide culvert projects. So there's actually 3 culvert projects. The same contractor got all 3. Of those 3, 2 of them are tied together. They were let together. They are currently working on the one that's on 150th Street, which is a triple box culvert, so it's pretty good size. They started last week, and they're moving right along. We've worked with this crew once before, and we're having similar results. The work is going very, very quick, which is very good to see. So they already got all the footing poured to the box culvert on that one.
Is this Iowa Bridge and Culvert?
Yes. And then last Thursday, the one on Holly Ave was closed, and started moving in equipment, and they'll start that this week. So start doing the dirt work. So hopefully, once those guys are done building the one on 150th, they'll be able to bounce over and start right in on the one on Holly. So it's moving very quick. We're very pleased to see it going this fast. Our pavement markings, which is a carryover project from last year, and Advanced Traffic Control has that one. They were in last week to finish up the remainder of the project. So that one's getting closed out now. So, and then I did want to give an update on some of our equipment. We last week we received the second of 2 motor graders. So we were very happy to see that show up. And that was ordered in November of 2021. So just to give you an idea of kind of what we're dealing with for wait times on equipment, that was 17 months. So it's still interesting in the equipment world. So
What do we still have outstanding that we're waiting for? Anything?
yes,
I thought so.
yep, we got some trucks. Luckily, this was one of the last big ticket ones for this year. So but that's all I had.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the April 17, 2023 regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion passes. Correspondence, Jeff, do you have anything?
Yeah, I had a couple of notes. I believe we all got an email from Miss Alice Spoto on gravel coming from trucks on the issue she highlighted on Mulberry. I did reach out to the sheriff, and he indicated there is a code section, Iowa code, that addresses, debris off of vehicles. He said he would mention to patrol to have a watch on it and check. That's about all. I don't know what else. It's really nothing that we can do. It's a patrol issue. You should have all seen, I tried to forward an email to you, with the Levy Stakeholder Commission. So this is again a group that started back somewhere around 2013 and have led the charge on what the improvements made there. They're gonna have a public meeting on the 4th from 4 to 5 p.m. at the Merrill. So attend if you choose. Be interesting to show what's going on there. And then I had a phone call from James Booser to check on where we are on the uncontrolled intersections process. That was it for me.
Okay, Nathan?
I had exactly the same things.
Okay. I had, the same thing with, one other item, and I had a call in regard to, UTV, ATV, on county roads and how it corresponded with the state, regulations that have come out. And, I've talked with Jim on that, county attorney on, a couple occasions already, and I gotta reach out to him again on this to see, how those mesh, so, but that's all I had. Danny?
I had the same things, on that gravel truck. I did reach out to the deputy, found out there was a code. I was gonna recommend we say something to the sheriff, so it sounds like you already took care of that. So that's, taken care of, I think. James, on the uncontrolled intersection, I had a couple calls on, the restrictions on the, I think there's 5 or 6, county roads for our side-by-side, so.
Yeah, and I don't know, Nancy, I don't remember when we crafted our resolution, who led that charge? Do you recall?
Who led it?
Yeah, was that county attorney and county engineer, or, I'm trying to,
We had a group that met and discussed when we were actually putting it together.
and I don't know what the impact of the updated state legislation has on that, if we need to modify ours, or if ours is null and void, or, I think that's probably something we should look at, and, cause we're starting to get calls. I know the event, what was it, last week, the week before, where we saw a significant event here in Muscatine, no issues, I think, with it, and I think people are starting to learn about the opportunity and starting to take advantage, and I think, Eric, you mentioned today something about that, and I know we're gonna talk about Ragbri and how it's gonna be affecting Muscatine County this year shortly, I think, with the city. And I think there's some provisions in the code for the ATV, UTV, and Ragbri routes, and maybe that's something we ought to have as a point of discussion there too.
The individual that talked to me, you know, it creates some confusion with the county code and what the state has come with, and
Has the state code went into effect yet, or is that going into, in July? I'm not aware of it.
I believe it was last July. wasn't
It's
it?
already-
It's already
It's in effect.
in place.
yeah, and this resident, his concerns is, he wants to make sure he's correct, that he's not breaking any laws, and, I understand that.
And I thought in this,
Appreciate that.
I thought in reading the state code that it exempted any local, because I know there was, and that's what I'm not sure, cause you know, we had what, 3 restricted roads, 2 or 3? I think Stewart and
we had-
Mulberry a little bit, and then a little bit on Burlington, or on G
Yeah, and
28.
there's one up on the county line, I think up by
The Old
Cedar.
Highway 6 up there as well.
Oh, yeah,
There's just a few though altogether. It's
Yeah,
Moscow.
yeah. Okay, well, I think it's probably something we should
I'll
look at.
talk to Jim about whether he thinks we need to make any changes to our ordinance, or if any clarification is needed, and
Okay,
we'll come back to you on that.
Thank you.
all right. Are you all done, Danny?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Kurt?
I had pretty much the same plus one. I had a Rhonda Hahn on Echo Avenue call about neighbors and their properties, garbage and refuse, and I talked to Eric about that, and he's well on it, so that's it.
Okay, very good. Committee reports. Jeff, you have anything?
Yeah, on the 17th, Monday the 17th, I had the Eastern Iowa Mental Health Region. On Wednesday, the 19th, I had the Bi-State Finance Committee meeting. I also attended that evening in Wilton, the countywide EMS. So I don't know how many people have been following, so there's legislation either enacted or coming that's talking about EMS as an essential service. And I think we've all been talked, you know, over in the West Liberty area mostly about that. And this is all about rural ambulance and ambulance coverage. And so this is the county-wide group. It's the providers in Muscatine County that are getting together, looking at the legislation, looking at the issues, And then the plan is to come to talk to the Board of Supervisors about what might be a common sense path for this. The first item on this is you have two options on how you fund this. You can do county as a whole, right, where everybody participates, or you can do a district plan. And I would say the district plan is much like we see today, where some townships support ambulance services, some don't, and some municipalities do, some don't. And so I think what they're asking is that we would consider, and I will tell you that Cedar County has done this, and Louisa County has done it, where the board would make a resolution that we would pass EMS as a essential service county as a whole. Okay, we'd do a resolution therein, and then we would formulate a committee that would come back to us, and I would suggest it be this group, that would come back to us with a plan for how we might implement and what that might look like. And then there's a governance process and all of that as a part of this code. So I think I'm gonna reach out for some sample resolutions by some of our colleagues and see what they've done and get back to everybody. I will tell you that this goes to a vote, okay, so this will be brought, I think it goes into a special election, I believe. You have to hold to do all this, and so it'll be a long and involved process. But the first step is get the resolution and get going on it. I did reach out to Louisa County because I know Cedar County, and I don't know if you followed a little bit on social media, you've seen there's been some dust, feathers flying up there over some things, and I don't understand all of that. And they had their board hired a consultant to come back and talk to them, and so one of the issues are all your fringe areas and time of response. And I know our group is the EMS in our county are very concerned about if a county would take it and get more regimented, because you have to count on, if I'm, like in our case, Division Street, if Wilton is Muscatine County and you got somebody across the street and on Division, why would you waiting for somebody out of Tipton to come down there? You'd want and so I've made calls to supervisors. I have not spoken with Cedar County yet, but I did speak to the supervisors in Louisa County, kind of get an understanding of where they think it's going there, and said, we would be interested in partnering with you in any way we can to make sure that we do the best job for the taxpayer. And I think I'll have that conversation. I'll probably I think Jeff Kaufman's leading it and doing it from supervisors in Cedar. I'll call Jeff and talk to him. I talked to Brad Quigley, who's been kind of leading the charge in Louisa, and I think Sean Main, I think is he on the board in Louisa now? I think he is. I believe he's the one that's participating with the committee there to kind of come back to the board with a proposal. So there's tax implication. So I think it's $1 per thousand authorized in the legislation, or 75 cents per thousand.
It's $1.
Somewhere in there, that can be levied. And while I never like to levy taxes, I would say that, certainly municipalities are already paying them, and many townships are participating and paying for ambulance services. And, I guess the thing I would wanna make sure, and this will be something we'll have to work with, is if the county gets involved in this, we'd wanna make sure to go to the trustees and all the townships to make sure that they see a commensurate reduction in their levies, because taxpayers are already funding it. So this is gonna get interesting, but it's coming down from the state. So that was on Wednesday, and then on the 20th, Thursday the 20th, I had the State Mental Health and Disability Services Region meeting. That will be my final meeting. I was up for reappointment, and I told them I do not have the time nor the inclination to continue to participate. I found it to be a bit administrative and not really effective, so that's it for me.
Okay. Nathan?
See, on the 18th, Tuesday, I had the decategorization meeting, and we're just dealing with a little bit of reduced budgets there. On the 19th, I had the Wilton Development Corporation. Some good things going on in Wilton. We had a nice presentation. Oh crap, I forgot the name of the company right now. I'd have to look it up. It's on the tip of my tongue, but the one who does the PVC piping, they're on the south side of town. They've got a big expansion coming in, which is going to be really good. And some other nice updates. Eagle, Jam Eagle, I think, is the name of that. Then also on the 19th, we had the Veterans Commission meeting. And that was all I had last week.
Okay, very good. On Monday the 17th, I had the Conservation Board, and on Wednesday the 19th, I had Riverbend Transit. That's all I had.
Scott, how are they doing on, you're currently Conservation Board is seeking 2 positions now?
Without,
Yes.
yeah, that's where they're,
Naturalist.
well, actually, it'll be, it's 3 actually with, Dave Baki's position and Joe and Kurt's.
Yeah, with the, we've actually went through the advertisement process for naturalist and, office manager, so.
And, I know that they had, a good number of responses for the, office manager. And, I think Kurt is still working his way through,
Naturalist?
apps for, Dave and his own situation there, so.
Did you also have a gal that just finished the academy that started, or is going to start?
She already worked for us, but she did just finish the academy.
She's already with us.
Yeah.
She just, okay.
And she's a officer, right?
She's a park officer / maintenance tech, so they kinda do a number of things. And then we have another recent hire that will be going to the academy, I believe, in August. So,
Now, do they work up before they go to the academy?
they can work.
They can.
Yep, they just have to be law enforcement certified within 1 year of
Okay.
employment.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we just had 2, officers from the sheriff's office and 1 from conservation that all graduated from the academy last Friday.
Good. Good progress on that front.
Okay. Danny, you have anything?
Tuesday, the 18th, Mississippi Valley Workforce Development, regular monthly CEO meeting. And then Friday, the 21st, we had with Mississippi Valley again, had a new CEO training. I think we're gonna have another one of those, but it went over a lot of our responsibilities and understanding the structure of that group a little better.
You figure it out,
Which is
would
I've
you
got a
let
ways
me
to
know?
go. It's pretty complicated, so I got a ways to go, but I'll stay at it. That's it.
That's it? Okay, Kurt, you have anything?
Yes, on Thursday, the 20th, I had the Muscatine County Fair Board meeting, and then on the 22nd, we had work day, getting ready for upcoming races.
Okay. Very good. Next is items with the administration office. First is discussion and possible action authorizing the chair to execute a contract with Cost Advisory Services, Inc. for cost allocation services for FY 22-23, FY 23-24, and FY 24-25.
Nancy, one of the questions, I saw the requested increase, which they did note it's been, 9 years since they
Yep.
took an increase. Is that so that is for each of those 3 years, so,
Yeah.
so we'll have the, what it was, a 7.9% increase or something like that?
Yeah.
And that'll be a fixed rate for all 3 years?
Yes,
And that contract is about 20-some thousand dollars, if I recall, is that right? What's our cost allocation? What do we pay on that contract? Do you know?
6580.
Oh, okay, so I'm off,
Yeah,
okay.
6,580 is what their charges per year.
So that's 3 years is that 20 grand.
Yes,
So say that figure again, 6,500?
6,580 is what
That's
they're.
our yearly.
That's the annual.
Yes, and then, what they do is they basically determined our indirect costs in terms of building and property insurance and people's time. They calculate how much of that, benefits DHS, who resides in our building. They calculated indirect costs for that, and then we're allowed to apply for reimbursement of those costs.
So the reimbursement we get usually is in the 20.
The reimbursement runs, last year it was 103,000. Year before that it was 141.
Well, I'm trying to figure out where my $20-some thousand came from.
I don't know
That's
where
like,
that-
apparently I've got a wire crossed somewhere. Okay, thank you. So I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is action to accept April 2023 payroll claims.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Nathan, second by Jeff. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Anything other, Nancy?
The only other I have is to remind you, we have a joint city-county school meeting this Thursday, the 27th, at 6:30 PM. I'm not sure of a location yet because of the flooding, but I should see the agenda yet today or tomorrow, which will have the location determined, and I'll get that out to all of you.
Yeah, I saw water in the parking lot yesterday, so I doubt it'll be
I
at the
think
Riverview
they,
Center.
they were talking about moving it to the school admin building,
Okay.
so I'm guessing that's where it's gonna be moved to.
On the agenda for that, I mean, one of the items I wanted to discuss with the group, that group is, police security in the schools. Is that gonna be on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next is receive information from county employees. Do I have any county employees that wish to address the board on any issue at this time? Seeing no one come forward. Next is receive comment from the public. Do I have someone from the public that would like to address the board? Please step to the podium, state your name and address and your issue, please.
Charles Lawrenson, 1808 Briarwood Lane. So I came in the last Friday of March to pay my tax bill. So I happened to walk by the bulletin board, and I thought I had noticed that there was no agenda published for or posted for the following Monday. I came in this past Friday about 9:30. It was not posted on the bulletin board. I used to subscribe to the Muscatine Journal. I have nothing good to say about Muscatine Journal, but I happen to have found the Muscatine Journal I had from like 4 years ago. At that time, they actually would print, as a public service, they printed an agenda for these meetings. Just a brief agenda. Apparently they no longer do that, because Muscatine Journal is not really a local newspaper anymore. Probably the people who own Muscatine Journal, I'm not sure there's anybody in Muscatine that actually owns stock in the company. So I'm really perturbed that I used to go to some of these meetings. I probably went to at least 6 or 7 different meetings. Some of them had budgets of $1 million a year. But you need to know where there's a public meeting and when. There is no reason that each agency that gets public funds that has a meeting should not make an effort to inform people. Now, I'm sure that if I had known some of the things you were going to talk about ahead of time, I would have been here sooner. At one time, at the old library, you could go there and they would have an agenda for like the city, county, and school board. The full agenda, you know, the city would have one this thick that you could read. I've asked him several times, and they never heard of such a thing. We don't get those in. Apparently, it's too costly to print out a single sheet of paper with a general agenda and take it to the library and have it posted so people who go to the library would know. I subscribe to Kiplinger magazine, and I trust Kiplinger magazine, and 25 years ago, they had an article about states and the taxes involved with the states. And Iowa was among the top 10 percentage-wise for taxes. Last year, they put out a list of 10 states you should not retire in. And Iowa was in the top 10, mainly because of property tax and sales tax, plus all the other taxes that they have. I would think that the problem we're having with the economy now, that instead of raising taxes or failure to roll back taxes, that some of the projects could be put on hold because when I did get the newspaper, there would be articles about 30% of the people are having trouble paying for food. So the solution to this is raise taxes. I looked at my property tax bill over the years. In the last 10 years, it has gone up substantially. It perturbs me. It perturbs me even more when I know that all the complaints about the high cost of things and people not being able to pay for things, that the people who tax us keep raising it. It's not helping the economy any, and the economy is not getting better, and it's going to get worse. Back when the economy really got bad, they never lowered my property taxes. Back in 2008, my property taxes never went down, even though we had a national disaster. So I would suggest, one, first, try to inform people that you're going to have meetings and what you're going to discuss. I would be here more often. Second is to think about increasing your budget less than you have been. I would have been here if I had known ahead of time. There are probably 8 or 9 different meetings I could have gone to if I had known they were there. If you don't know, you won't come. Then you published your minutes and said, no one spoke. There's a reason no one spoke. I would have been here if I had known. So that's it.
Okay.
Thank you, Charles.
I would say the state of our, we do publish every week. We have a deadline, and we pay a pretty handsome money, the county does, to publish our agenda every
No,
week.
we don't publish the
The
agenda.
agenda we do not, we publish the
Minutes, but the
okay.
agenda goes out Friday afternoon.
About
It's
3
po-
o'clock, I think
It's
it went.
posted here, it's put online.
Okay,
You can request to have it emailed to you, get on the email list.
Okay,
and I would say we haven't seen Charles in probably 3-4 years, so.
do I have anyone else from the public that would like to speak at this time? Seeing no one come forward, it is 9:54, and we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.